final afternoon. It's not quite the dramatic eyes to the lights, foot to the floor, but it almost is, Harry. It almost is on our final afternoon in this latest round of matches, but delighted to say we're off to the Belgian Grand Prix. A little bit different, sprint qualifying. Over to you.
Oh, Kevin, you're too good. You're too kind. Far too kind. Well, it's busy over there and it's busy here as well. Indeed, welcome back to Belgium. Formula One into the halfway point, or passing the halfway point of the season now, as we arrive at Spa-Francorchamps for round 13. Nestled in the Ardennes forest lies the longest track on the calendar, just over 7 kilometres long. It's high speed. It's technically challenging. Mix that with the fact that it's a sprint weekend, the third of the year, so we are straight into it, and it is going to be fast and furious, because coming up we have sprint qualifying in about 4 minutes time. To guide you through it all is myself, Harry Benjamin. I'm joined by F1 journalist Rebecca Clancy, and delighted to have for us for the duration of the day Red Bull F1 Academy driver Alicia Pomowski. The weather is set to be changeable across the weekend. I think today we might just avoid some rain, but because the track is so large, we are in a bit of a microclimate, so it can quickly change. But the sun is out, air temperature 22 degrees, track temperature 37.8 degrees. Alicia, we've only had one practice session, so nobody quite knows where they stack up, but after FP1 it certainly looks like Oscar Piastri is strong and the leading contender here.
I am so excited for the sprint qualifying. As you mentioned, Oscar Piastri looks like he has the upper hand, but then again, remembering that drivers can only use the medium tyre in SQ1 and SQ2, and I believe George Russell was actually the fastest driver in FP1 on the medium tyre, so that's going to add a new dynamic into this sprint qualifying session, so who knows what to expect.
Absolutely. The sprint qualifying session slightly shortened as well compared to the normal traditional Grand Prix qualifying too, and as Alicia says, in SQ1 and 2 it is mandatory to use a new set of medium tyres before we then go into SQ3 and the top 10 shootout and the battle for sprint pole, where you must use a set of soft tyres, but they can be new or they can be used. But Belgium, this is a challenging track though, isn't it? It's incredibly high speed, it's particularly in that first sector, but it's quite technically challenging in the middle.
It's a very challenging track for the drivers. I've never actually been here before, but I know the circuit very well. Sector 2, as you mentioned in particular, is a very high-speed technical circuit for the drivers. I'd imagine it's quite physically demanding as well, but also very high speed. Sector 1 is all about straight line speed, so the teams have really got to find a compromise within the balance of the car, that they have good straight line speed, but equally they have a good balance within the car, because it's a very much momentum-based circuit. And the drivers definitely need confidence in their car in that sector 2, so it's all about finding that compromise for the teams, having the right balance within the car. Yeah, huge confidence needed, particularly in that first sector as you come through the first corner. La Source, the hairpin right-hander, you want to be good out of the traction zone there. Then it's basically a run up through Eau Rouge, up over the hill, blind crest at Radion that leads you onto the Kemmel Straight, about over 700 meters long. You're getting up to 330 kilometers an hour before you slam onto the brakes into the Lecombe chicane. That feeds you out through the right-hander of Malmedy. Then you start to head downhill into that twisty and technical middle sector with medium speed corners, the first of which you come up to is Rivage, long cambered right-hand hairpin. That leads you into the left-hander of Jackie X, turn 9, and then you're continuing to dive back downhill before you head through the double apex downhill, almost flat out left-hander of Pouhon. Another chicane greets you, a quick right left of Lefania. That feeds you into Stavelot, one into the right-hander, and then back out of the second part of Stavelot and Paul Frere curve, and then you're heading down as fast as you can through the flat-out left-hander of Blanchimont. Seen some epic moves there in the past, particularly Max Verstappen back in his Toro Rosso days, and then it all has to come to a stop at the bus stop chicane. Get on the brakes, so easy to snatch a brake and lock up. If you get it right, you turn it into the right-hander, you head slightly uphill. The pit lane entry is to your right. If you're finishing off the lap, you chuck it into the left. The DRS line awaits you. You flick the switch, the rear wing flies open, and you cross the line, and that completes a run of this 7 kilometre, just over 4.3 mile track. 19 corners, 10 to the left and 9 to the right, and SQ1 is about to get underway in about 20 seconds time. F1 journalist Rebecca Clancy is also
also with us. Beck, is this a McLaren one to lose, or are there other contenders here? Who have you got your eyes out for in sprint qualifying?
I think over the course of the weekend, I think Max Verstappen could have a very good one, purely for new manager bounce, as it were. But I think, yes, everything points towards McLaren, doesn't it? They have dominated this entire season so far, really. Norris taking the last 2 wins. It's the thing with this track, it's a bit like Silverstone, isn't it? Where you'd be a bit of a fool to predict it, really, because it never quite goes the way you expect. And then with Spa, if you add in the extra element of the weather, it is its own little microclimate. As you look up at the sky, you see clouds dotted around, but then you could turn around and 30 seconds later and there's a big black rain cloud coming at you. And because, as you mentioned, Harry, it's such a long circuit, you could find the back of it is raining and then it's still the glorious sunshine down on the home straight. So it's a really, really tricky one, and as ever, weather will come into play this weekend.
We've had some epic qualifyings around here so far, but this is our first dose of it this weekend. Sprint qualifying underway. The sounds of the cars as they head out of the garage. The green light is on at the end of the pit lane, and SQ1 is underway. And at the end of the next 11 minutes and 5 seconds, we will eliminate the slowest 5 drivers while they head out on their outlap. Let's bring you up to speed with where the standings sit. Oscar Piastri has an 8-point advantage over his teammate Lando Norris at the top of the Drivers' Championship. Max Verstappen now 61 points adrift in third. George Russell fourth, with Charles Leclerc's Ferrari rounding out the top 5. In the Constructors' Championship, it is McLaren who have a very healthy lead over the rest. 460 points to their name. They are over double Ferrari in second. Then comes Mercedes and Red Bull. Williams are leading the charge in the midfield in 5th. Sauber, though, courtesy of Nico Hülkenberg's podium last time out, have rocketed up from the back to that 6th position, leapfrogging Racing Bulls, Aston Martin, Haas and Alpine, who, despite 19 points to their name, find themselves 10 points adrift at the back of the pack and work to do. But we know the margins are so fine in qualifying, in Formula One in general this season, and already we're having a bit of a traffic jam in the pit lane as everyone is eager to try and find themselves, Alicia, I suppose, a good bit of space on track. Because in FP1, we did see a few stepping over each other.
It was a very busy circuit at the start of FP1. Obviously, all drivers only having limited track time with a 60 minutes of practice before heading into qualifying, as we see an unsafe release there.
Dude, what the hell was that?
Yeah, that's very much an unsafe release. If you didn't slow down, you'll crash. We'll report it.
Yeah, that was Lawson, and the man who was being released was Nico Hülkenberg Sauber. So that has been noted by race control. So we'll see how that pans out. But they don't usually look too kindly at that, but we'll see what happens on that front. But again, it just highlights how important it is to find yourself a good bit of position on track.
Track positioning is key, and it's a really interesting one here at Spa, because with it being such a high-speed circuit, a tow would be so beneficial to the drivers to obviously try and gain that extra straight line speed and reduce the drag in a straight line in sector 1. But equally, you don't want that dirty air in sector 2, which could disturb the front end of the car and result in snaps of oversteer. So it'll also be interesting to see if any teams work together, 2 teammates to give each other a tow, but I'm not sure, because there's very limited time in this sprint qualifying session.
Where it was always Monza, wasn't it, where every team would try and make that work. Particularly Ferrari would always try and make the tow work, but they could never quite get it right. Here you do have that incredibly long Kemmel straight after Raidillon that leads you all the way through to Les Combes. Isaac Hadjar's just made his way through it. He's now coming through Rivage, the French rookie for the Racing Bulls team, who won his first ever single-seater race at this very track, as well as winning the Formula 2 feature race here last year. And this is the sound of the Frenchman making his way through Pouhon. Nico Hülkenberg is currently fastest of anybody through the first sector, but indeed everybody out on track at the moment, with the exception of Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin, just waiting to make their way out into the pit lane. Hadjar, good in the middle sector, making his way out through Paul Frere curve and towards Blanchimont.
Looks like he had a little bit of traffic there as well in sector 2, so we'll see if that impedes him at all. But I'm actually excited to see how Mercedes get on, because I'm just looking at the air temperature and it's only 22 degrees. Track temp is nearly double that at 40 degrees, but we know that Mercedes operates often well in the cooler temperatures, so that will be interesting to see how they get on.
And to go back to the sheer enormity of this track, because it can really ruin your qualifying. We don't have long, 7 minutes and 22 seconds remain of SQ1. If you snatch a break, make a mistake into La Source, the whole lap is ruined, and you've then got to try and navigate your way back to do another lap without taking too much out of the tyres, and also just still trying to have time. It's a real challenge.
Absolutely.
Well, SQ1. Yeah, almost 6 minutes left of this session in this sprint qualifying. We're expecting to see the McLarens up front, but George Russell looked good in the first practice session as well, and don't rule out Max Verstappen here. And actually we've got a plume of smoke as a car has gone off into the gravel, so that will affect some of the lap times, but things just getting started here in Belgium. Dry weather so far. So there was a big plume of smoke and dust coming from the gravel out of Stabilo. See if there's no yellow flag, so perhaps someone just dipped a wheel and was able to carry on. But 6 minutes and 16 seconds remain. Hadjar fastest ahead of Bortoletto, Ocon, Lawson and Hulkenberg. They all get demoted down a position because the man who looked good on the medium tyre in practice one has set the early benchmark, a 1:42.6 to the top of the tyres. But Hamilton is coming into the bus stop chicane now.
Yeah, talking about that little bit of gravel that we saw, all the sort of gravel go up in the air, there is no margin for error ever around this circuit, and it's very, very costly with such a long circuit that it is. And a surprise there, Lewis Hamilton only P8, so 7.5 tenths down, so quite a way down from his teammate Charles Leclerc too. I think we're about to get a look at who dipped a wheel into the tyres. This is Kimi Antonelli you're hearing in the Mercedes, and it wasn't just a dip. He turned into the right-hander, lost the rear of the car, and a full spin into the gravel, kept it going, but that wouldn't have done his tyres any good. Not at all, no. I'm surprised actually. He got away with that quite well. So Max Verstappen now on a lap, just in sector 2 now, so interested to see where he pans out there.
Lando Norris to the top of the times by half a second, and immediately displaced by Oscar Piastri, who puts 3 tenths between himself and his teammate. Here's George Russell's radio.
I lost the time with that gravel.
If that's the same gravel as the one his teammate kicked up, then I'm sure Mercedes might just keep that until the end of the session there for George Russell. Still awaiting proper lap times from Verstappen, who's coming into the middle sector now. Antonelli will need another lap on the board. Stroll, Alonso, Tsunoda's on a lap at the moment, as is Ollie Behrman's about to come to the end of his outlap, so we'll see what the rookie in the Haas has got. But Yuki Tsunoda trying to find time as well. He has not had a good run of things since stepping into that Red Bull. 5 races and no points on the board. At the moment, he's a second off in the middle sector compared to Piastri's time. His teammate Max Verstappen will come across the line first, set his first flying lap in this SQ1 session out of the bus stop chicane and towards the line, puts himself second, splits the 2 McLarens, and less than or just over 2.5 tenths between himself and the current P1 holder Oscar Piastri. Tsunoda across the line, only 11th.
Yeah, tricky one for Tsunoda, but great to see that Max has managed to put his way between the 2 McLarens, but Piastri still does look like he has the upper hand. Interesting to see where Lance Stroll comes actually. Both Aston Martins were within the top 10 in FP1, in P8 and P9 I think they were from memory, so interesting now to see where he goes up to P6, so that's a very solid effort, first run for Lance Stroll.
Yeah, a lot of the teams bringing some upgrades here as well. Aston Martin the same, trialling out a new nose and a front wing, which were ready before they were expecting them. We're expecting them in Hungary, but at least in Fernando Alonso's hands, it's certainly delivering at the moment, up to 4th place, fastest of anybody in the final lap. But of course, this is the first part of the session, but it's going to be busy. Already 3 minutes and 17 seconds remain, and track evolution as well will be a certain factor. We've had some support categories as well in between the practice 1 session and now, and it will be almost a case of being on the track at the right time towards the end if you are safe. At the moment, well, Lewis Hamilton certainly needs to go again. He's down in 16th. Then it's Pierre Gasly, Colapinto, Antonelli, having made a mistake on his lap and into the gravel, needs to get one on there. Ollie Behrman as well is taking a bit of time to get a lap on the board as he now peels out of the pit lane, and almost coming to a standstill for Isaac Hadjar as he he peels slowly out of the pit lane, and there's a lot of traffic coming out of the pit lane and coming through turn one. It's going to be one final flyer for these guys by the time they get back round again.
Yeah, I'm expecting to see a lot of these drivers improve. They were pretty much just banker laps for everybody to get that initial first time on the board. The track temperature actually has gone up by 1 degree already in this session alone, so track evolution will be very high. We'll see, just seeing a replay of Lewis Hamilton's first flying lap. I wonder if he had a snap of oversteer, similar place to where Kimi Antonelli had a moment actually, so that might explain why Lewis Hamilton's a little bit further down the order than we normally see him.
Yeah, teammate Charles Leclerc is only up in 8th at the moment, so Ferrari, who looked so good at Silverstone, it felt like they under-delivered when it came to the Grand Prix, but Ferrari also running new parts, new rear suspension on board the SF24 as they continue to try and find more time and try and lower the ride height of that Ferrari, which has really been their Achilles heel ever since the disqualification of both drivers at the Chinese Grand Prix. But it was a sprint race where Lewis Hamilton managed to get his first win in a Ferrari. It was China. Again, he had a good result at the sprint race in Miami as well. Is there something about a sprint and Lewis Hamilton that just seemed to go quite well? He has another opportunity tomorrow. At the moment, we are setting the grid for the sprint race, which will take place tomorrow. You can hear that on 5 Live with the lights going out at 11 o'clock in the morning. A shorter race, 15 laps compared to the Grand Prix on Sunday, which will be at 44 laps. But with just over a minute remaining, those in the elimination zone are Hamilton in 16th, ahead of Gasly. Colapinto is 18th. Antonelli without a time yet, so too for Behrman. On the bubble, the likes of Tsunoda, Hülkenberg and Albon all need to improve their times. The top 10 is Piastri, who is over 2.5 tenths clear of Verstappen. Then comes Norris, Alonso and Russell, the top 5. Hadjar, Stroll, Leclerc, Sainz and Bortoletto, the top 10. Now, with 35 seconds left, the top 3 have not come out. They've decided they think that's enough for them. So everybody else from 4th and up, Alonso down I should say, are all out there again. Pierre Gasly now making his way down the Kemmel Straight, but the big lap to watch here is going to be Lewis Hamilton. A mistake on his first flyer certainly lost him time, but he's left it right to the very end to make his way through into SQ2. Right now, if it all ended here, he would not go through, and he's down on time in the first sector. Gasly up on time in the first sector. Also out there as well, the likes of Colapinto. Antonelli is not really having a great lap time actually. I'm not sure Antonelli's gonna do well here at the moment. He's coming into the final sector now. Ollie Behrman with a decent first sector as well, but Hamilton looking like he's leaving it all till the very end to get himself through into SQ2.
Yeah, it's actually Fernando Alonso who set the purple sector 1, so there's lots of green sectors going on, so I'm expecting this order to completely change in the next 60 seconds or so.
The clock has chimed down to 0 to the end of this SQ1 session, but Hamilton has found time in the middle sector. He's almost 2 tenths up on Albon's time to get himself through. Tsunoda's taken the flag in 12th, so too Leclerc up in 8th, Stroll in 7th. The top 3 haven't come out. Kimi Antonelli is not going to progress. His lap wasn't good enough. I don't think he managed to time it right either. Made a mistake on his first lap and he is out of this session. So too is Franco Colapinto, and Lewis Hamilton is going to be out of this session. He's made a mistake coming into the bus stop chicane. He's gone deep, and Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari has brought out the yellow flag. This is the sound of him still moving. He's trying to see if he can get his way into the pit lane, but you have to cross the track and almost drive backwards. He will not be allowed to do that. He's going to have to try, if he can, to turn it back round and cross the line, but that's going to ruin Ollie Behrman's lap. Will he get going? Green flag back out. Behrman's going to have to lift off for the stricken Ferrari car. Hamilton is going to be out. Behrman, will he be able to progress? He lost a lot of time in that final sector, but has done enough in the first 2 to get through. Out goes Hülkenberg, out goes Alex Albon, out goes Lewis Hamilton, along with Colapinto and Kimi Antonelli.
Yeah, that's a big moment for Lewis there. I wonder what happened. We saw him have a huge snap of oversteer in T14 earlier on his first run, so that's a rare mistake from the Ferrari that you don't normally see, so I'm keen to see a replay as to what caused that.
Albon didn't manage to do it. 16th was all he could muster, and he is eliminated from SQ1 along with, well, a podium place for him last time out. It's 17th for Nico Hülkenberg, whose qualifying, I have to say, hasn't been his strength so far this year. Lewis Hamilton has managed to get back going again and has crossed the line and will now have to head all the way around along with Colapinto and Kimi Antonelli. Okay, this is Lewis Hamilton coming into the bus stop chicane. And as he comes into the braking zone, he just loses the rear and round he goes.
Yeah, it looks like he just locks the rears up, to be honest. He loses the car while he's still in a straight line. So that looks like he just locked the rear axle, which completely pivoted the rear end round. So that's strange, to be honest, to happen so late on in the lap. I don't know if it's tyre temperature related of some sort, but very, very strange, because we normally see front lockups into such a hard braking zone like that. But yeah, that's a big blow for the Ferrari.
It certainly is. He'll have his work cut out for him in the sprint race tomorrow. But I suppose that is the beauty of a sprint race, is it doesn't completely ruin your whole weekend. Another man out is Antonelli.
Yeah, sorry, no grip.
Yeah, copy, mate. We just need to check this car out to see what we've done to the floor.
Sorry.
Don't worry about it, mate.
That's tough for Kimi Antonelli, who's apologising on the radio. Mistake on his first run, left him all to do in that final run. Clearly didn't have the grip, and it's been a tough European season for Kimi Antonelli. And to, I suppose, how much of an effect does that as a driver have on your confidence and your mindset, Alicia, when you've had a bit of a run of not so great results?
It can really knock your confidence, to be honest, and especially for someone like Kimi Antonelli. He's a young driver, so he's had a lot of limelight on him, not much single-seater experience either, so it's obviously he's wanted to prove himself, do a good job.
Not great, but messy.
Yeah, sorry about that, man.
Oh, that was Hülkenberg, who was on his lap side by side with one of the Racing Bulls, either beginning a lap or coming to an end of it, and that would have absolutely lost him time. That was Lance Stroll flirting with the gravel and indeed hitting the gravel. That would have cost him time, but Stroll actually was up in 7th at the end of that, despite actually, off camera, we see digging up quite a lot of gravel. But just to reconfirm then, Alex Albon is out in 16th ahead of Nico Hülkenberg in 17th. Lewis Hamilton out in the Ferrari in 18th. Franco Colapinto 19th. Kimi Antonelli 20th and last. So we have a little bit of time to breathe before we get ready for SQ2. Beck Clancy with us, F1 journalist. I mean, we're a lot of talk coming into this weekend of Ferrari bringing an upgrade and Lewis Hamilton with some quite punchy words in the press conference, really trying to G up the team, but that's not how you want to start your weekend back after a couple of weeks off.
That is a terrible start to his weekend and an unfortunate record for him. It's the first SQ1 exit for Ferrari since the sprint was introduced. Absolutely not ideal. This is our 3rd sprint race of the year. It was Lewis Hamilton who was on pole in the very first sprint all the way back in China, if anyone can remember that far back. So this is hugely disappointing for him. Their eagerly anticipated rear suspension that they were bringing this weekend, everything was very positive. As you say, Harry, he was talking a lot about how he's been working with all of the teams, to all the departments within his team, to try and push ahead and get these upgrades brought in. But that is incredibly disappointing as we watch the tractors go out with the massive what do you call them, the like leaf blowers almost, because the track is covered in gravel, because everybody seemed to take a trip over turn 14 as we just watched Antonelli again spin full 360, somehow managed to save that, which was very impressive. And just a note for Nico Hülkenberg, Sauber, who didn't bring any upgrades this weekend, sadly not able to relive the success that he had last time out in Silverstone.
No, let's bring in BBC's F1 correspondent Andrew Benson. I mean, I suppose the one saving grace, Andrew, for Lewis Hamilton and Ferrari is that this is only a qualifying for a sprint race. It won't have any bearing on the Grand Prix.
That's right. I mean, look, they've got these new parts, and quite often with new parts these days in Formula One, it takes a little bit of time to adapt them so that you know exactly how to get the best out of them. And the drivers were talking about that yesterday. Still, I mean, Hamilton will be berating himself for that error on his first run, I'm sure. And then, of course, another error on his second run. So it's not been his greatest qualifying session. I've been looking at the times at the front of the field, though, and there's a really interesting picture developed. So this morning, Piastri was making all his gains in the middle sector. So there's a sort of usual setup compromise at Spa. Do you go for speed on the straights, which is sector 1 and 3, or do you go for speed in the corners in sector 2? Obviously, the second strategy leaves you potentially open to vulnerability in terms of racing in the race. But what's interesting about the times from the qualifying session is that while Piastri this morning was making gains in the middle sector but losing time in the straight sections but still being fastest overall, this time he's still quickest in the middle sector by 0.3 nearly, but he's losing no time at all to Verstappen in the first and third sectors, which I guess really speaks to the sort of incredible lift drag compromise that McLaren have got in terms of the overall performance of that car, that it can generate the downforce it needs in the high-speed corners through the middle sector but not lose out on the straights, at least in the first sector of qualifying.
Just to pick up what I was talking about, the amount of gravel that is on the track, the FIA have just confirmed that the start of SQ2 will be delayed by just a few minutes as they try and clear the track up from all of that gravel. As I say, there was an awful lot of it.
Yeah, so haven't had a time through on that. The tractor is still blowing the gravel off the racing line and back into its bed, but I'm sure it might well get kicked up again when we get SQ2 underway. That's not deterring the fans from having a dance in the grandstand, up on their feet. The Orange Army out in full force in Belgium. Of course, Max Verstappen, well, races under the Dutch flag, was born in Belgium, so has a strong army of fans here. Same for Lando Norris, actually, whose mother is from Belgium. And Max Verstappen with I think a wry smile in his helmet, watching on the screen from the cockpit of his Red Bull. Beckworth, just also touching on Kimi Antonelli. I just wonder, there's a lot of pressure on Antonelli, isn't there, to be performing well. He was billed, as this prodigy, and there's no doubting he's got talent and speed, but as I was saying to Alicia, it's not been a good run of form for him across the European leg of this season, and it continues here in Belgium.
Yeah, it's not been the run that certainly Mercedes would have wanted from him. They badged him as this great prodigy and he was the future of the team. It has been a bad run. To be out in SQ1 is not great. You say there's the rest of the weekend, but Alicia, you can probably talk to this a lot better. It's what it does to your confidence and the setup in the car and how it feels. And he was saying that he didn't have any grip, and I guess particularly on a track like Spa where it's all about your confidence. What will that be doing to them? What will he be thinking to himself?
Yeah, well, people always say that you're only as good as your last race, so naturally it's very easy to start to lose confidence. I mean, motorsport is full of highs and lows. The highs are extremely high, the lows are extremely low, but there is often more lows than there are highs, especially for a rookie driver like Antonelli. I mean, Kimi is only 3 weeks older than me, and I'm in an F4 level series, whereas Kimi's obviously in F1, so he's incredibly young, and I've got a lot of respect, obviously, for what he's doing. But I actually wonder if he had some floor damage after that off into the gravel. Based off the radio message from Bono, he mentioned how he was checking the floor, so that might be why he didn't obviously then improve on his second run in SQ1 there.
Yeah, quite possibly. Just update from race control, 16:55 local time. We will get SQ2 back underway, although that is an estimated time of start, so it depends how quickly that tractor is removing the gravel. It is almost, you forget how young Kimi Antonelli is sometimes. I know that's part of the bill of him, but drivers are getting younger almost by the year that they're coming into Formula One. He's only just finished school.
He literally brought his classmates to a race earlier in the year because he just thought it would be a good day out for them, and then he finished one race, went back and started his exams, and then now he comes back racing again. It's just a different world.
But I think even he has openly admitted that especially in Imola, he was born in Bologna, he maybe didn't handle that very well. It got a little bit too much for him, too much interference, and then since then you have to say it's not all been due to mistakes. He's had reliability issues, and of course he got that spectacular podium in Canada, which was a really good result for him. But Austria, of course, the crash with Max Verstappen, and then Silverstone last time out as well. He's had a lot of DNFs, which is not what you want to see from your Mercedes driver.
But also, he is under an enormous amount of pressure, and I know all F1 drivers are, but he has the potential of Max Verstappen coming in and taking either his seat or George Russell's seat. So at the moment, he's probably over-pushing slightly as well, and that leads to making mistakes. And that is absolutely, probably not even at the back of his mind, it's at the forefront of his mind. He wants a contract extension. Now look, if Verstappen did come in next year, and none of us actually think that is going to happen now really, I think that that's kind of fading away slightly. I think Toto Wolff, his manager and team principal at Mercedes, would source him out with a drive somewhere else, exactly like they did with George Russell when he went to Williams for 3 years. But that's got to be playing on his mind, surely, with the contract negotiations going on.
It's incredible, though, just to come back to he had his schoolmates there, and then he completed his exams, and I want to say they're probably the equivalent of, do they still do A-levels? Is that a thing? Is that still...
You are not that old,
Yeah,
Harry.
but they have changed them quite a lot. They have changed them quite a lot. But imagine, I always used to get a bit nervous coming out of the exam hall, and everyone would discuss, so what did you get for 12B? And someone would go 56 and I got 112, so how could I be so wrong? But he had to come out and face the press. I think it was local journalists, but it was like he had to give a press conference after his last exam. I mean, who could possibly comprehend that?
He's as media trained as you can possibly be for an 18-year-old. And Mercedes kept him wrapped up in cotton wool, bubble wrap, and then a bit more cotton wool before he started in Formula One. They have made sure that he has had as much training as possible to deal with us in the press. So you do get used to it as much as you can, having a camera shoved in your face. It wouldn't be as unusual as you stepping out of your A-levels and someone doing it to you, Harry, let's say. But yeah, I can only imagine what an odd experience. And perhaps with Imola, you would suggest maybe kept his head down. But it was lovely, actually, to see him bringing his classmates. That's a really cool thing to do.
I wonder if Mercedes will do a press release once the results are in for his A-levels, or the equivalent of.
I think that's social media now, isn't it?
Is it? Yeah, that's...
Oh, you are showing your age now, Harry.
Ooh, good. Well, you used to have to go in and collect your results in front of everybody.
Yeah, that was me. I'm old enough to have done that.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Do you not do that now?
Dunno.
How'd you get your results now?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I still have to go in, and it's still old school. We haven't moved on that much.
It's the people who agree to go on like the news in the morning.
Oh yeah, no. They must have advance warning they're getting straight A's, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, as someone, I'm sure it was straight A's, but were they delivered via owl or pigeon for Andrew Benson?
Well, I didn't get, actually, sorry, I did get straight A's in my O-levels, actually. But,
I knew you were an O-level man.
My daughter also got very, very good results in her GCSEs and A-levels, and she got hers by email. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, they are allowing for that now, are they?
But she is older than Kimi Antonelli by 4 years, so...
Well, it's good. We're glad we've nailed this down and what's currently going on with the exam situation. But I'm sure more will become clear. And if you've just finished your exams, hashtag BBC F1, let us know. What did you get? Anyway, I don't think it's the right time of year. Back to the track action, and we are back underway. SQ2 is on, and it's 8 minutes and 8 seconds remaining, and it's only the two McLarens who have gone out so far, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. Piastri has looked strong from the get-go, Norris also looking good as well, but I have to say, based on, well, not a lot of running so far, because it is a sprint weekend, Piastri does seem to have the slight edge. Max Verstappen up there as well. As a reminder, this is qualifying for the sprint race, so the times are slightly reduced, and in this session it is mandatory to use a brand new set of medium tyre, and we are setting the grid for the sprint race tomorrow morning. You'll be able to hear that on BBC Radio 5 Live. There'll be lights out from 11 o'clock in the morning, and less points on offer for that one as well. Only the top 8 get points, and 8 points for the winner, and then we go into Grand Prix qualifying and Sunday's Grand Prix as normal. So more racing and more points up for grabs, and that's perfect for the grandstands, which are absolutely packed out with fans looking to see their driver do well. And after a bit of a delay to get rid of the gravel that had been spewed up onto the track after SQ1, already we're seeing a few glints of gravel that haven't quite been cleared properly. But let's see, Lando Norris has just come out of the final corner now as he makes his way down to La Source. It's a track where he made his free practice one debut for McLaren back in 2018, and then went and became the tea boy for Fernando Alonso for the rest of the weekend. There's a brilliant scene of him delivering a cup of tea to Alonso in the garage at a time when McLaren were really struggling. Well, how things change in Formula One. Now battling it out for the championship, and in terms of the constructors, looking set to do the double after securing it last year. Down to the end of the Kemmel Straight for Lando Norris. Oscar Piastri following suit. Nobody else really in a mad rush to get out onto the track, and now Norris comes into that slightly more technical sector, but Piastri's quicker in the first.
Yeah, Oscar already 2 tenths up on Lando Norris there, so he definitely seems to have the upper hand, although it's important to mention that we're still on the medium tyre here in SQ2. Moving on to SQ3, that's when all the teams can bolt on the fastest soft tyre, so that grip increase will be huge, also combined with the track evolution, which I'm sure will be big across this circuit. So yeah, Oscar's looking like he's got it for now, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that will translate through to SQ3.
No, and we've seen how things are right on a knife edge between these two. It's usually less than a tenth that we see splitting pole position from the rest, and now they start to be joined by the others. Max Verstappen heads out there along with Charles Leclerc, Yuki Tsunoda as well. 15 cars left in this session after we bid goodbye to Albon, Hulkenberg, Lewis Hamilton, Colapinto and Kimi Antonelli. Lando Norris coming across the line now to complete his first flyer, and it's a 1:42.182. Oscar Piastri, though, is almost 3 tenths up on his teammate. No help of a toe, either he's too far back for that, but he doesn't need it. 4 tenths clear for Piastri at the top of the field after the first flying laps from the McLaren drivers.
Yeah, that's a huge margin for Oscar, which you don't normally see. We've just seen him come over Radion and Eau Rouge there, bottoming out with the cars, so it's extremely low to the floor, but he's obviously got extremely high straight line speed as a result of that. So yeah, Oscar seems like he's got it for now, but here comes the Red Bull, Max Verstappen out on track now.
Max, who in Grand Prix pole stats has been denied pole the last 3 times in Belgium due to engine penalties. This is usually the place where you elect to take one, but in the modern day we're not really having to do that too much anymore. He is officially a 1-time pole sitter here, a 3-time winner, and with a new, well, not really a new voice in his ear this weekend, Simon Rennie taking over from Gianpiero Lambiase, who is having a weekend off duties. And we're just seeing, actually, from race control, Oscar Piastri, his lap time has been deleted. Track limits at turn 4, and we're going to get a look at it. This is coming up through Eau Rouge, over the crest at Radion, and he's cut the corner. 4 wheels over the curb, past the white line. It looked marginal, but race control have deemed him to have exceeded track limits, Alicia, and he's going to have to do it all over again. Oh, that's such a small margin for Oscar, but it's so costly. It would be so blind as well, that corner in an F1 car. You basically sat on the floor, so you wouldn't even be able to see that curb, so it's all just based off judgment. But that's put a lot of pressure on Oscar now to either do a cool-down lap and go again, or to come in the pits, bolt another new set of mediums on and go again. But they're going to be close for time, so that's a lot more pressure on Oscar now. It is. This is a problem, because now he had the track to himself when he set that lap time, and now he's got everybody else out on track with him, so having to manage that will be crucial for the Australian driver. And this is what we keep talking about, the championship battle between these two. It's so tight, but it will come down to these little mistakes, these little moments that cost you that extra place on the grid, that extra bit of lap time. He has got time to do another lap, but of course he would have already taken a lap out of his tyres, and more gravel being spewed up onto the circuit as well by those who dip a wheel. It's certainly going to have a factor. And Max Verstappen now coming through towards Blanchimont, fastest of anybody in the first sector, personal best in the middle sector as the sunshine peeks out from between the white clouds that overlook this Spa-Francorchamps circuit and glint off the Red Bull. He gets up to 8th gear before slamming on the brakes, down through the gears, into the right-hander that begins the bus stop chicane, out through the left, onto the throttle. The rear wing flies open, the DRS activates, and it's a quick lap time. 0.6 of a second clear at the top of the field. But Max Verstappen, there is time still in this track, and there is certainly time in that Red Bull. Yeah, that's an awesome lap from Max Verstappen, and Charles Leclerc also goes ahead of Lando Norris. I believe Oscar Piastri has done a cool-down lap, looking at that 2:17 that he's just done, so he must be on another lap now. But also just looking at track temperature, it's reduced to 37 degrees from 40 degrees, so it is cooling down, which
potentially is increasing the track evolution. I don't know, but we'll see what George Russell can do now in the Mercedes.
Well, if the track's cooling down slightly, could that help the likes of George Russell in the Mercedes? We know that car tends to like slightly cooler conditions, but is it cool enough? They're struggling to really get a handle on their tyre management skills, but George Russell currently lies in, well, he doesn't have a time on the board. Actually, only 4 drivers have any kind of time, but it's the top 3 who have the competitive ones after Oscar Piastri had his lap time deleted. He will need to go again, and indeed he does go again, and he slots himself up into 3rd spot, back ahead of his teammate, but by not as much of a margin as his first lap time was. And crucially, both McLarens find themselves behind Verstappen and Leclerc. Tsunoda slots into 5th, but that's not a competitive lap time, so he will begin a flying lap now. And coming to the end is George Russell. This is the sound of the British driver who took the win on the road here in the Grand Prix last year after an exceptional one-stop strategy, but then was disqualified for being underweight. He comes into the bus stop chicane now, out of the shade, into the sunlight, and through the bus stop chicane, easy on the throttle, and across the line for George Russell, puts himself up into 5th, last of the runners who have set a lap time so far.
Seems like quite a poor lap actually from Lando Norris, which is quite rare and we don't normally see. Oscar's still managed to go 0.5 of a second quicker than Lando Norris, even having done a full push lap and a full cooldown lap, so that's a lot more mileage on the tyres, as Isaac Hadjar actually goes P3, so mega lap from Isaac.
And Liam Lawson pops up into 5th. What lap times from the 2 Racing Bulls drivers. Is this track evolution right to the very end of the lap? Alonso could only manage 8th. He takes the checkered flag. Lawson takes it in 5th. In trouble here. Tsunoda now down to 11 as Carlos Sainz in the Williams rockets up to 3rd place. Piastri's now down to 5th. Norris is down to 7th. They're both out on track at the moment. Ocon puts his Haas up into 3rd. Tsunoda's down in 12th. Behrman follows his teammate up into the top 4. Norris is down to 9th. Russell's in 10th, and now he's in the drop zone. Tsunoda gets himself up into 10th. That immediately becomes 11th. Gabriel Bortoleto in the Sauber is up to 4th. It's Red Bull, Ferrari, Haas, Sauber, Haas, Williams, Racing Bulls, the top 7. But Lando Norris in the dying stages is fastest of anybody in the first sector. He's currently down in 11th. Tsunoda is out. Russell, will he get another chance to go again? He's out there, but he's not improving. Russell's going to be out. So too for Alonso. Lando Norris needs to find time here in this final sector. Piastri's right on the bubble. This for Lando Norris to get himself through, and he does so in style to the top in SQ2. That puts Lawson out of this session, but the track ramping up in that final stage of SQ2, and in the end we have lost Liam Lawson in the Racing Bulls in 11th, Yuki Tsunoda's Red Bull 12th, George Russell in the Mercedes 13th. Both Mercedes, neither will appear in SQ3. Fernando Alonso is down in 14th, only ahead of his teammate Lance Stroll. What an end to that SQ2, Alicia.
I don't even know what to say. That was the craziest end to SQ2 that I have ever seen. And Oscar Piastri only just marginally got through to SQ3 there by 0.5 of a second in front of Liam Lawson. So crazy grid. This is going to be a really exciting SQ3 once they bolt the soft tyres on as well.
This is why I love sprint race weekends, because they just throw a little something else into the equation. They're here for entertainment, and I think we're being thoroughly entertained right now. And also, yes, there's less points on offer for the sprint race, but they are still crucial. And when we've still got to set the final grid in SQ3, but when you've already got 2 Haas cars, a Sauber, a Williams, 1 Racing Bulls up there with the big dogs, that's really important for those teams in the midfield.
Absolutely it is, and a huge shout out to Gabriel Bortoleto, because I think Nico Hulkenberg was out in SQ1, so that's a fantastic result. His qualifying is really coming on this year, and same as Pierre Gasly through to SQ3 again. So yeah, this is going to be an exciting grid for tomorrow, a good opportunity for some of the backmarker teams to score some good points in the championship. Yeah,
Bortoleto has actually been really taking it to Hulkenberg, at least in qualifying terms. In sprint qualifying head to head, it's 1 apiece, but in qualifying for normal Grand Prix, it's 6 all on that front. So when you think of the experience of Hulkenberg, and he is usually pretty good in qualifying, actually it hasn't really been going his way, at least over one lap so far this year for Hulkenberg. He's had some mega drives, but he's had to do them through the field, whereas Bortoletto's been there or thereabouts when it comes to one lap pace in qualifying, and certainly has a really good shot at qualifying. We're having a very decent qualifying for the sprint race and possibly getting some points as well. But a reminder for the sprint race, only the top 8 get points on that one. So 8 points for the winner, all the way down to 1 point for 8th place. So you've got to get inside the top 8 for the at the end of 15 laps of racing on Saturday. Word from the FIA, the start of SQ3 will also be delayed by a few minutes for the same reason as it was delayed for SQ2, which is to clear off some of that gravel. Right then, who's your pick for sprint pole, Alicia?
I have, we're just hearing from Bortoletto.
That was a lap.
Yes, it was Gabriel Bortoletto. That was a very good lap. You've got to do it again now, though.
I have no idea who could be on for pole. I would have said put my money on Oscar Piastri or Lando Norris, which they're still, I think, probably up there. Obviously, Lando with a great lap there at the end. But I think it could be anyone's. I think, and the lap will definitely be done towards the end of SQ3 as well. The track evolution looks huge across this circuit for whatever reason. So track temperature is constantly declining as well. It's gone down from 37.7 degrees to 37.0 degrees. So small margins, but it makes a big difference. So super excited to see what will happen now.
And you can't afford to make mistakes like Oscar Piastri exceeding track limits in SQ2. That got his first lap time deleted. He had to leave it right to the end. And even then, that lap only just saved him. Finished 10th at the end. Walking away down the pit lane is Yuki Tsunoda. Another disappointing qualifying for the Red Bull driver, Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin. He won't be happy with that. He's down in 14th with teammate Lance Stroll just behind him. And I suppose for those then, it effectively becomes a bit of a testing session for the sprint race. Unless something chaotic happens ahead of them after 15 laps of racing, really it will just be trying to get a little bit more data on some of the new upgrade packages that they've brought out. And of course, Parc Fermé rules change on the sprint weekend. Parc Fermé reopens after the sprint race, so you can once again then tweak the setup of your car in time for qualifying with the Grand Prix and the race as normal on Sunday. George Russell will be one of those people who now look to a testing session, because this is the sound of him a little earlier on. Did it all go wrong in La Source? Bit of a front lock up, coming through the right-hander, lost him a bit of time, tried to get a bit of toe from the Red Bull as he made his way up through Eau Rouge. Would have cost him a bit of time, but in the end I think he was about 9/10 adrift of Norris.
Yeah, that turn 1 is an awful place to have a lock-up like that because of how long the straight is after that. Through Eau Rouge and Radion and then down the Kemmel Straight, you really need a good exit out of that T1. So he'll have been kicking himself for that. Not a good day for Mercedes with Kimi Antonelli also out in SQ1. But shout out to Haas as well. Ocon up in P4 and Behrman up in P7. Behrman obviously had a great qualifying at Silverstone, but then he had that 10th-place grid drop which sent him back to the back of the grid. So that's great to see Haas bounce back from that and get both cars through to SQ3.
Yeah, it was a career best qualifying for Ollie Behrman, and Haas really felt like they dropped the ball a bit in the Grand Prix. There were some big points up for grabs there, and in the end they both ended up having contact and doing a wonderful pirouette and spinning out of the race. They did manage to rejoin, but it didn't help their quest for points in Silverstone after that contact there. Esteban Ocon with good form at Spa, points in the Grand Prix in the last 7 consecutive finishes for him. Ollie Behrman has won previously here in the Formula 3 category and will be desperate to get some more points on the board. He's had 3 consecutive 11th place finishes. That must be so jarring as a driver when you're just there or thereabouts. It's almost, what's the point?
So close yet so far. Yeah, nightmare position.
Certainly is. He's had 3 Grand Prix points scored so far. Compare that to Ocon, who's had 5 Grand Prix points so far, and Esteban Ocon actually up and just about inside the top 10 of the Drivers' Championship still, just ahead of Isaac Hadjar. Behrman with those 3 11th place finishes, but he did score points earlier on in the year, only ahead of Gabriel Bortoletto and Colapinto in the Drivers' Championship. It's the sound of Gasly and his team radio.
Good luck. From number 2.
And we are through. Well done.
Wow. Let's go.
All right, catch your breath now.
I don't know what it says about the state of Alpine, but when he crossed the line to finish 6th in Silverstone, and when he's just qualified at least to get himself through into SQ3, it really does sound like Pierre Gasly's won the lottery or won the race. It's a good result. He's really dragging the most out of that car. But, I mean, Beck, it's a bit of a similar situation that we see at Red Bull at the moment. That is a one-car team right now, Alpine, and Gasly, it's all on him for now.
Oh, he's been scoring all the points. All 19 that they have all came from the Frenchman. It was a very good lap, and actually, isn't it interesting, we were talking a bit earlier about this track being a driver's track. Bortoleto, who came through, absolutely delighted with his lap. Gasly coming through, absolutely delighted with his lap. They can feel it so much when they put it together, and it's absolutely perfect. And just to note, both Hasses in the top 10, the Sauber of Bortoleto in the top 10. Neither team has brought an upgrade this weekend, so very impressive from both.
Yeah, it certainly is. A reminder then of who we've lost so far. Liam Lawson will line up 11th for the sprint race, ahead of Tsunoda in 12th. George Russell lacking pace on that final run. Bit of a lock-up into turn 1, but I don't think it was enough to really put himself down in 13th, ahead of Alonso and Stroll. And we lost in the first part of this sprint qualifying Albon, Hulkenberg, Lewis Hamilton down in 18th, ahead of Franco Colapinto and Kimi Antonelli as well, 20th. So it's been a bad day at the office so far for Mercedes, for Ferrari, but they've still got one car in it at least for Ferrari. The two McLarens looking strong. Piastri, though, made a mistake in that middle part of sprint qualifying. So we will see those mitigating factors coming into this final part where everything is pushed right to the edge. And you must deliver that final flying lap. The fight for sprint race pole is about to get underway. It's going to start at 18 minutes past the hour. So just a few minutes time while they clean up the remaining gravel on the track. We will have the two McLarens of Piastri and Norris. We'll have the one remaining Red Bull of Max Verstappen, the one remaining Ferrari of Charles Leclerc. We'll have then the two Haas cars of Ocon and Behrman, the sole Alpine of Pierre Gasly, the sole Sauber of Gabriel Bortoleto, the sole Williams of Carlos Sainz, and the sole Racing Bulls of Isaac Hadjar. I think we're set up for quite a exciting conclusion to sprint qualifying ahead of the sprint race 15-lap dash around the longest circuit on the calendar. I'm a fan of this sprint race format, Alicia. Are you?
I love the sprint race weekends because, I mean, we've got a qualifying session on a Friday. What more do you want? It's fantastic. And I think who's going to get pole? I have no idea, genuinely. My money was on Piastri about 10 minutes ago. It's now on Lando Norris, I think. But don't rule out Max Verstappen either, so who knows?
No, Charles Leclerc has some good history here as well. 3 times a pole sitter here. Got his first win here back in 2019. Charles Leclerc actually has the most sprint podiums without a win. So he'll be looking to put that right. But could we also see a surprise sprung a couple of years ago when this track hosted a sprint race? We had the likes of Pierre Gasly ending up on the sprint podium too. So it gives that opportunity for those in the midfield to have a good run at points. And for those, well, who maybe haven't, there is an opportunity to just run out on track and get a little bit more testing time in, which is essentially what this has now become for the likes of Hamilton, Russell and Antonelli.
Just a quick note on Russell. He thinks he picked up damage. We saw his teammate Antonelli go over the gravel in Q1. He said after he went through it, the car felt terrible. And then as he went into SQ2, he thought it was even worse. And the team now think he had damage. So that's the reason he thinks he went out in SQ2.
OK, thank you very much. Rebecca Clancy with George Russell out in 13th place, which is, pending any penalties that may come in. He will start from behind Yuki Tsunoda and just ahead of Fernando Alonso. Another good result for Isaac Hadjar, though, so far. That was a good lap from him, wasn't it, Alicia, to get himself back inside the top 10. And we've been saying it all season long, very impressive and one of the standouts of the season so far.
Hadjar's been my rookie of the year, to be honest, so far. He's really surprised me, to be honest. I didn't expect that level of performance from him, but he's been incredible. A lot of Q3 finishes, a lot of points scored as well this year. But just moving back to McLaren, I just saw a graphic on screen there about Lando Norris and the times that he was gaining and losing throughout the lap. And it says through the high and medium speed corners, he's the fastest car, but he's losing over 0.3 of a second on the straights. So that proves that he's got his car more set up for cornering, more for the sector 2. So he's losing out on the straight lines, sections in sector 1 and sector 3. So we'll see if he can get a toe in SQ3, because that would really try and sort of help with that lack of straight line speed that he's got there.
I suppose though, then if you're setting yourself up for that, I understand why you want to gain a lot of time, particularly in that middle sector. But when sector 1 is so dominated by a long, 1.5 straights, let's say, because you've got that run down from La Source to Eau Rouge, and then you've obviously got the Kemmel straight, and then even in the final sector, you've got all the way from turn 15, kind of arcing your way through Blanchimont. Surely you want the straight line speed.
Of course, as a driver, you want everything. We're never happy. But then again, Sector 2, which is the technical part of the circuit, is the longest sector within the track. And also, as a driver, you always want to have the best car in the corners. That's where you can make the difference as a driver. And that's where you want the confidence, because you can't make much of a difference as a driver in a straight line. So that's where you want to be able to have the confidence, have the grip, have the lateral grip through the corners. But yeah, we'll see how it works out for Lando in the end, and I'd like to see how that compares to Piastri as well, whether he's got a stronger sector 1 or sector 2, or have both McLarens got the same setup or a different one there.
The roar of the Max Verstappen fans who are packing out the grandstands here in Belgium, in what is one of the most beautiful surroundings that we visit, nestled in the Ardennes forest, in the eastern region of Belgium. And the elevation change is really something that has to be seen to be believed. It's over 100-meter difference between the highest point of the track and the lowest point of the track here in Spa. And I really enjoyed, Oscar Piastri put out a video coming into this weekend of him doing, I think it was in an F4 car, a bit of a simulation lap. And he stopped at turn 9, now known as Jackie Ickx corner, coming through the left-hander after Rivage, and just before you get to Peugeot, he stopped there and said, well, when you're in the cockpit of the car as a driver, you can actually see, if you look to your left as you're coming through the corner, you can see the bus stop chicane sort of down below you. And I was really taken aback by that. I think I've been to Spa a few times, and everyone gets, I think, taken aback by the rise up from Eau Rouge to Raidillon. But when you're there in the middle sector, I suppose you can very easily lose your kind of sense of where you are, and just to see the final chicane nestled down there, it looks like it's miles away, but really in a Formula 1 car, well, it's a few seconds.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I've never been to Spa, but it's a really scenic location. You can see that from the cameras. It's an incredible circuit. But yeah, I'm just surprised actually with SQ3. It's now underway. It's been underway for a few minutes, but no cars out on track. So I think this proves that everybody's going to be doing one run towards the end of SQ3, just sort of prioritising that track evolution. As we saw through SQ2, that all the laps were done towards the end, so drivers all waiting. No doubt we'll have a huge traffic jam. All cars will decide to go out the pits at the same time. So just let's hope that they don't trip over each other. But the grip, the increase in grip now will be huge, going from the medium to the soft tyre. I'm surprised they aren't doing 2 runs really to try and learn and adapt. But then again, there's a short space of time, so the pressure's on for everybody now.
It certainly is, as the McLarens get started up before they are led out into the pit lane. We're going to have really a one-lap shootout here for sprint qualifying. SQ3 well and truly underway, but just over 4 minutes left, as now the 2 McLarens, the Red Bull of Verstappen, the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, all make their way into the pit lane. It's a long lap around here, particularly on an out lap. You've got to warm up your tyres, then you've got to set your flyer. So there really is no room for mistakes. While Piastri and Norris look like they are the quickest drivers out there, I don't think they have much of an advantage over the rest of the field. One small mistake can easily see those McLaren drivers separated, could easily see a non-McLaren driver on pole.
And what's interesting is Lando Norris is the first car out on track, so I wondered whether Max Verstappen was going to try and stay close to Lando Norris, get a little bit of a toe down the Kemmel straight, but he's already quite a way back, so it looks like they're prioritising space so that they don't trip over each other in Sector 2 with the dirty air.
Just over 7 kilometres is this Spa-Francorchamps circuit, 19 corners. 10 that go to the left, 9 that go to the right. You're getting up to speeds of over 330 kilometres an hour. We've got 2 McLarens in this final part of sprint qualifying. We've got the Red Bull of Verstappen, the Ferrari of Leclerc, and then we have some brilliant rises up from some of the midfield talent, the Sauber of Bortoleto, the Williams of Sainz, the 2 Haas cars of Ocon and Behrman. Pierre Gasly's Alpine is in the hunt, along with Isaac Hadjar's Racing Bull, who is leaving it right till the very end to come out of the pit lane to do one final flyer, as only 10 cars will be on the track. They should have plenty of room to all have enough space ahead of them. And this is what it's going to come down to ahead of the sprint race tomorrow morning, ahead of 15 laps of racing that get us warmed up for the Grand Prix as normal on Sunday, which we'll have qualifying for on Saturday afternoon following the sprint race. But this is why I personally love a sprint race. You have one practice session, everyone's on the back foot. You don't have enough time to dial in the car. You don't have enough time to iron out the easy mistakes you can make. That's all happening now when you need the best lap.
And this may only be sprint qualifying, but this could be crucial because there's a smaller amount of points on offer for the sprint race itself, but there's only 8 points between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri in the championship, so this could prove critical.
Every point counts. Just over halfway through the season, and it is only 8 points that separate the 2 McLaren drivers. That is absolutely nothing. We're expecting, we're hoping this will go all the way to the wire, but sprint races will certainly pack a punch. This, the 3rd host after China and Miami this year. We'll also have sprint races in Austin, Texas, in Sao Paulo and in Qatar. 6 in total this season. The 3rd qualifying underway for it and about to come to a close with just over a minute left. Lando Norris through the right-hander of Rivage, comes downhill now into the left-hander of Jackie Ickx and heads towards the double apex flat-out corner of Pouhon. Max Verstappen faster in the first sector. We'll see what Oscar Piastri has as well, looking a little quicker than his teammates in the first sector. It is nip and tuck, but at the moment the Red Bull driver Verstappen has the odds on the 2 McLarens coming through the first sector, but we know Lando Norris has dialed his car in for cornering speed more so than straight line speed, and he's making his way through the middle sector, the tight and twisty middle sector, out through Stavelot, down towards Blanchimont, the flat-out left-hander of turn 17, as the sun glints off the papaya and sparks fly from the underside of that McLaren. One big braking zone to go for Lando Norris. Don't snatch a brake, don't snatch a tyre. He doesn't. Round the final corner, the left-hander to the line for Lando Norris as the clock chimes down to 0, and it's a 1:41, 1:28. But Oscar Piastri is quicker in the middle sector. Max Verstappen is quicker, but there's less than a tenth in it. He needs to keep it neat and tidy through the final sector to the line with a DRS flap open. Verstappen denies Norris and takes the checkered flag as well to put himself up in provisional sprint pole. Oscar Piastri though, fastest of anybody in the middle sector. Piastri to the top of the times, but we've got the likes of Esteban Ocon flying in the first sector, but he's much further down in the middle sector. The Haas cars really gearing up to be quick on the straight. Charles Leclerc can't nestle his way into the top 3. The Monegasque has to settle for 4th. Carlos Sainz behind him in the Williams in 5th. Ocon looking quick though, so too his teammate Ollie Behrman. Haas in need of some more points on the board, whether big or small. The sprint race offers them that, and to qualify he crosses the line, and Ocon actually out-qualifies the Williams of Sainz, puts himself up into 5th, and Sainz becomes a Haas sandwich as Behrman pops into 7th. But what about Gabriel Bortoleto, Pierre Gasly and Isaac Hadjar, the 3 remaining cars out on track to settle lap time? Bortoleto looking strong in a revitalised Sauber team. Gasly, who's been on a good run of form, and Hadjar as well, quietly impressing throughout the year. Gasly slots into 8th. Bortoleto will come across the line next. Can he displace anything? No. 9th. It's Gasly 8th, Bortoleto 9th, Isaac Hadjar, the last car to cross the line, and he demotes Bortoleto to 10th as the Frenchman puts that Racing Bulls in 9th. But in the end, by over 0.4 of a second, it is Oscar Piastri who will start the sprint race from pole position, and you have to say he did it when it counted, Alicia, and he's looked quick from the off.
Yeah, what a lap from Oscar Piastri. 6/10 in front of his teammate Lando Norris, so that's really well deserved. He was quick from the get-go in FP1, so I'm not surprised in all honesty. But that's big for the championship, the fact that Max Verstappen splitting the two McLarens as well. So yeah, also surprised to see Leclerc 7/10 down the Ferrari, so still struggling for pace there as well.
Max Verstappen managing to split the two McLarens as well. Let's hear from the man who will start the sprint on pole.
So I didn't like to tell you until it was all confirmed, but that's P1 and margin is nearly half a second. Very impressive.
Let's go, baby. Sorry for the heart attack. That wasn't in the plan, but yeah, car was mega. Nicely done. Very nicely done.
Oscar Piastri there, I think that heart attack referring to SQ2, where he was left right on the bubble after his lap time was deleted. But when it counted, he had one lap to do it in, and one lap for perfection, which is what he delivered, and that is a bit of a statement as well. 6/10 clear of Lando Norris. Now, did Norris make a mistake? Has he just geared that car up better for corners? But overall, Piastri with the fastest package. Max Verstappen will take great satisfaction from splitting the two McLarens here, a track he knows well. Indeed, Charles Leclerc down in fourth as Piastri pulls up in Parc Fermé, puts his steering wheel back in his car and climbs on top of his McLaren and waves a fist to his team and the crowd and makes his way off to be weighed. I think Max Verstappen will take a lot of satisfaction from that, Alicia, managing to split the two McLarens.
Definitely, and he actually is in a great position here at Spa for that opening lap, because that straight is so long down to the second braking zone in particular after the Kemmel straight. So if Max Verstappen can get a good toe on Oscar Piastri, I wouldn't even rule him out from leading the race after lap 1.
Maybe a tinge of disappointment from Charles Leclerc in fourth for Ferrari, but Beck, for those in the midfield, there's some big opportunities up for grabs tomorrow. Esteban Ocon starts fifth.
Incredibly impressive from the Haas driver, isn't it? Yes. Oh, we're going to go to interviews very quickly, but yeah, very impressive. Not loads of points on offer for the sprint, but given how close that midfield battle is in the constructors, we are talking just a few points between the teams. Everything matters now, because the difference between 6th, 7th, 8th is tens of millions of dollars in prize money. So at a track where you can go racing, it's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow. And
we're also expecting the weather to be a little more changeable for the rest of the weekend. I remember a couple of years ago when we had the sprint race here, we actually had to delay the sprint race for about an hour or so because the weather kept changing. It was absolutely pouring it down with rain. They were trying to find a gap in the weather, and we know that this is such a huge, expansive area. It really has its own microclimate, so you've got to try and strike while the iron is hot. But I think that sets us up rather nicely for a fun 15 laps of racing. And those in that midfield, Ocon, Sainz, Behrman, Gasly, Hadjar, Bortoletto, with prime opportunities to pick up a couple of points for their team. And we will hear from our sprint qualifiers, speaking with Naomi Schiff and Oscar Piastri.
Oscar, massive congratulations. This is your first sprint pole of the season. You seem to love it around here. I mean, what an amazing gap to the competition.
Yeah, that was it was a good lap. A little scare in SQ2 with the lap deletion, but no, the car's been mega all day, and I feel like I've been able to put in a lot of good laps. So yeah, thanks to the team. The car's been great, and this is a track I love. Yeah, it's my favorite one of the year, and I don't know, maybe they gave me a couple of extra tenths, but no, it's always good fun around here, and when the car's handling as well as it is today, it's a pleasure.
This morning in FP1 you seemed really confident, and other than a little moment in SQ2 where your lap time was deleted, it seemed to be just a dominant performance from you all day. Why are you feeling this confidence around here?
I don't know. I mean, the car has been in a good window from lap 1, and again, it's a track I always enjoy coming to, and yeah, I don't know why, but yeah, I think, I've had good confidence. I feel like the last few weekends have been good from a pace perspective, but not so much from a results perspective. So, yeah, it's nice to get a result today.
Tomorrow morning, bright and early, we've got a sprint race. It's the longest track on the calendar, so that means not very many race laps. Is that going to work in your favor? I know you've got slightly different downforce levels to the cars around you. How do you think it'll fare?
I need to go and look. The Red Bulls were very quick in a straight line. in practice. I don't know if that was the same in sprint qualifying, but that makes life difficult, and Spa is probably the worst track to have pole position at. So let's see, and I'll go have a look. But I think the pace in the car is really strong, and I've felt good today, so hopefully we can have a good day tomorrow.
Well, congratulations on your sprint qualifying pole.
Thank you.
Oscar Piastri then, the pole sitter for the sprint race. My thanks to Rebecca Clancy, to Andrew Benson and to Alicia Pomowski for joining me. You can hear the sprint race on 5 Live, lights out at 11 o'clock on Saturday. We're also going to be on 5 Live tonight at 9 o'clock, previewing the whole weekend. But for now, from Belgium, we will hand you back to Kevin Howes and the county cricket team.
Harry, Rebecca, Alicia, Andrew Benson, thank you very much. That was a lot of fun, but how does he keep up with all of that? I don't know. He's the top man. And he's back again, is Harry, along with the rest of the team over the weekend. We look forward very much to that. Now, to the county cricket. It's the last day of this latest round of matches.